I waited 10 years with my daughter for my wife to come home from the army, and finally she did. But she asked for a divorce. On the day we were supposed to go to the courthouse, I got into a bad car accident and forgot everything about her. My memory stopped at the years I was with my high school sweetheart. My wife didn't believe I'd lost my memory. She came to the clinic and said, "Stop faking it. No matter what, I'm divorcing you." My daughter glared at me with disgust. "I don't want you as my dad anymore. I want Uncle David to be my new dad." Later, I got back together with my first love. When my wife found out I really had amnesia, she fell apart. When I got hit by that car, while riding my bike, I saw Sarah's car parked on the side of the road. She was getting out with our daughter, Emily, wrapped in the arms of a tall guy. I recognized him right away. It was David Ramirez, her buddy from the army. "Who got in the accident?" Sarah asked a passerby. "Dunno, some guy. Looks pretty messed up." Sarah wrinkled her nose in disgust and headed straight into the courthouse with David. I tried to call out, but I heard her say to him, "Once I divorce Michael Thompson, we'll get married right away. Then we can build a house back in town. You can work at the factory, and I'll stay home with the kid." Those were the things I'd dreamed of doing with her for the past 10 years. I'd waited year after year, and now that she was back, she didn't want me anymore. My outstretched hand dropped, and I slowly closed my eyes. I had a dream about the day Sarah came home from the army. The mayor had a banner up at the town entrance to welcome her. She pulled up in her sedan, dressed in her crisp uniform. She looked stunning. They said she was the beauty of her unit. I was excited to talk to her. It had been 10 years. But when we got home, her first words were, "Let's get a divorce. Emily stays with me. This house was built when you married me, so it's mine by rights." I stared at her in disbelief, replaying every word in my head. My daughter and I had waited 10 years, missing her every day and night. But now she wanted out. I asked what I'd done wrong, and she said coldly, "You didn't do anything wrong. I just don't like you anymore. I was young and dumb when I married you. Now I like someone else, David Ramirez." I'd heard rumors about her and David being close in the army. I thought they were just talk, but they were true. My heart ached with bitterness. I pinned my hopes on Emily, thinking she'd speak up for me. But she said, "I don't want you as my dad either. You're a loser, always just farming, can't even afford a TV. Uncle David is different. He's got money and can buy me anything." In that moment, my heart shattered. The daughter I'd raised for 10 years didn't want me. The woman I'd loved and waited for 10 years didn't want me. I woke up in the local clinic. I didn't understand why I was there. Wasn't I supposed to be taking the SATs with Jessica? I tried to get up, but the nurse stopped me. "Don't move. You were just in a car accident. Your leg's broken. Get your family here to pay the bill, or we can't treat you further." I froze. How could I have been in an accident? Cars were everywhere now. Questions exploded in my mind. I asked the nurse, "Can you mail a letter to Oakwood for me? To Jessica Miller. She's my girlfriend. She can pay." Jessica and I had been together 2 years. Both our families were struggling, parents sick. We leaned on each other, working odd jobs at the factory to save for college exams. The nurse laughed. "Who writes letters these days? Everyone uses phones." She pulled out a black cell phone. "What's her number?" I stared, confused. The nurse noticed something was off and called the doctor. He said I had amnesia, selective. From what I said, he figured my memory stopped at age 20. I couldn't believe it. The nurse went to town and brought Jessica back. When she arrived, I was stunned. Her skin was tanned and rough, and she looked thinner. But in my memory, she was fair and delicate. "Michael Thompson." She walked over, eyes filling with tears, and set a can of protein shake on the table. "I got this for you. You're weak from the accident. I paid your medical bills." Something felt wrong. I wanted to ask, but my head throbbed. Flashes came. My family forcing me to marry a woman named Sarah Jenkins. Then breaking up with Jessica. It was pouring rain. She cried, saying I betrayed her. Snapping back, I asked desperately, "Do you know what happened to me?" Jessica explained I had amnesia. Back then, I didn't go to college with her. I married Sarah Jenkins. And now, it had been 12 whole years. I stared at her in shock, looking at my clothes, pulling a phone from my pocket with over 10 missed calls from Sarah. It was all real. No wonder everything was so advanced now. Then the nurse said outside, "Sarah, the Army star, is here at the clinic. Come see downstairs." Why is she here? Heard her fiancé was treated here and recovered. She's bringing a thank you banner. Jessica's face changed. I sensed this Army woman was connected to me. From my bed, I could see out the window. A white Ford pulled up. A pretty woman got out with a little girl, a tall man beside her. She said to him, "David, after I thank the doctor, I'll find Michael to finalize the divorce. He's in this hospital." Michael, that was me. So she was my wife, Sarah? I couldn't believe an accident erased so much. Looking at Jessica, I said, "Don't worry. This time, I won't let you down. Her tears fell like rain. Soon, noise outside the room. Nurses whispering. Sarah's so good to David. Heard she's lined up a contractor to build a house back home. Yeah, and bought him a car. She's loaded. It bugged me, but it made sense. Sarah was my wife. Treating another guy like that wasn't fair to me. But now, I didn't care about her. I'd missed Jessica once. I wouldn't again. Jessica filled me in on the years. She said I'd waited 10 years for Sarah to come home from the army. She thought I still had feelings for her. I didn't know why I'd waited, but I knew I couldn't have just fallen for her. Then Sarah burst in with the little girl. They looked alike. I guess she was her daughter, Emily. Stop faking. I'm divorcing you no matter what. Sarah glared coldly. Emily sneered. Seeing you annoys me. You're useless. You just want to cling to my mom. Their words didn't faze me. They just seemed rude. Sarah, how can you be so heartless? Michael's given you so much these years. Jessica stepped up angrily. Sarah glanced at her coolly. Oh, it's you? You like Michael? Take him back. But you're raising a kid. Does your kid approve? I froze. Jessica was married. Made sense after 10 years. It hurt, but I held it in. Please leave. I said coldly to Sarah. When I'm better, I'll come divorce you. Sarah's eyes widened in surprise. After a beat, don't think I don't know you're stalling by faking sick. Get up and divorce me now. She grabbed my arm. Jessica shoved her away. Don't touch him. He's weak. Sarah scoffed. Weak? Michael, getting Jessica to help act this out to convince me you're sick? You have 1 minute to get up, or else. Her fists clenched, face icy. He's really sick, and he has amnesia. Jessica yelled. The room went quiet. Sarah stared, then sneered. Think faking amnesia will stop the divorce. Emily rushed over and hit my hand. I don't want you as my dad. I want Uncle David as my new dad. Divorce Mom now. I pushed her away calmly. Fine, let's do it right away. If Jessica was right, that I'd waited 10 years for this woman, raised this kid 10 years, then no point holding on. 10 years hadn't put me in their hearts. I called the doctor. He wheeled me out. Be careful outside. You just had an accident. Head's not right. Memory's gone. Doctor, you mean he really has amnesia? Sarah asked, shocked. My condition was private, only for close family. Doctor didn't know our deal, so he said, ask Michael himself. Jessica pushed my wheelchair. Sarah followed, mocking. Even if you died, I wouldn't care, let alone amnesia. So stop the tricks, Michael. We're done no matter what. Her nasty attitude disgusted me. Couldn't believe I planned to wait 10 years for her. At the courthouse, we discussed splitting assets. She wanted half, Emily with her, and the house. I didn't know about the house. Jessica said I'd built it with my earnings when we married. No way I'd agree. Everything else is yours, but not the house. Or no divorce. Finally, she gave in, and we filed. Needed the marriage certificate. When she pulled it out, I saw our photo. Neither of us looked happy. Why couldn't people choose who to marry back then? Forcing two unloving people together was torture. Outside, David waited. Jessica said he was Sarah's army colleague, and her first love. Sarah grabbed his hand happily. Let's get our marriage license. Gross, divorcing me and marrying him immediately. But it wasn't my business anymore. Jessica and I left. Back at the clinic, I focused on healing. Jessica came daily to care for me, even brought her son Alex to visit. It saddened me. She had a family. Her coming wasn't right. Jessica, don't come anymore. Your husband wouldn't like you caring for me. She paused, then laughed. I'm not married. Alex is my sister's kid. She passed, so I'm raising him. My sadness vanished. Really? Of course. I told you before, I'll only love you. No one else. Her eyes sparkled like stars. I hugged her tight. When I'm better, I'll marry you. That was our old promise. Marry her, live together, farm, cook. Simple life, but happy. She hugged back, excited. Yes, I'll wait. What are you doing? An angry voice yelled. Sarah at the door, holding fruit. It had been 2 weeks since the divorce. She hadn't visited. She stormed in, furious. Michael, how long since we divorced? And you're marrying someone else? I laughed. What right do you have to say that? She'd moved on seamlessly, hypocritical. We were divorced. My life was none of her business. She was speechless. Please leave. You're not welcome. But she stayed. Emily misses you. That reminded me of the girl. She'd said she didn't want me as dad. Now she missed me? Tell her I don't see her as my daughter anymore. Don't come find me. I won't see her. You. Sarah stared in disbelief. Michael, you're bold now, talking to me like that. She fumed. Who are you to me? Why respect you? She stomped out angrily. Jessica said, you never stood up to her before. Sarah was always dominant, bossing you around. I saw you two shopping once. You were so meek. Flashes came, us shopping for supplies. I wanted to buy for Jessica, Sarah mocked. You and her are over. I'm pregnant with your kid. You have to treat me right. Even then, I still had Jessica in my heart. Didn't know why I'd left her for family pressure. But now, no more meekness. When I healed, Jessica biked me home. Townsfolk sighed. Poor guy waited so long for his wife. Now she dumps him. Good thing Jessica's caring for him, or it'd be worse. I ignored them, went home with her. I asked her and Alex to move in. On moving day, Emily ran up and threw fruit peels at Alex. You can't live with my dad. He's mine. Jessica shielded him, getting hit too. I grabbed Emily's shirt angrily. Leave. You're not welcome. She cried. Dad, don't you want me? You used to love me most. I had no memories of her, but I remember her saying she didn't want me as dad. I put her outside and told her to go. Then Sarah showed up, pointing furiously. Michael, how can you be so cruel? She's your daughter. I said coldly. We're divorced. Stop showing up. I slammed the door. That night, heavy rain. Alex and Jessica asleep. From the window, I saw David's house lit. He and Sarah arguing, his face angry. I chuckled. Went to bed, but found a journal. Mine from the past 10 years. It explained why I married Sarah. She liked me, got me drunk, slept with me, got pregnant. Parents forced marriage. I had no choice. Then Emily born. Sarah wanted to join the army. A woman with that ambition. I thought she was impressive, supported her. 10 years, I worked hard, saved, raised Emily well. Didn't love her, but she was my wife. I accepted. Reading it felt like someone else's story. Next morning, knock. Sarah with Emily. Emily's feverish. Take her to the clinic. I have things to do. I glanced at Emily, recalling the journal. 10 years of devoted care. Skipped meals for her, worked endlessly, bought her treats. But she'd rejected me as dad. She's your responsibility. Take her yourself. They looked shocked. Michael, you're like a different person. You weren't like this. I didn't answer, shut the door. After, Jessica and I worked hard, believing effort pays off. I'd give her a proper wedding. My head still blank on old memories, one step at a time. Daily with Jessica. She was caring, endless talks like old times. That day, planting crops in the field. Townsfolk smiled. Jessica and Michael finally together. Yeah, they're the real lovers. Jessica grinned. We'll be so happy. I was about to reply when Sarah's voice from the road, cooing to David, let's go to town for new clothes. David's eyes showed annoyance, but he agreed. Sure. I could tell he didn't like her. Wonder if Sarah will get dumped eventually? She came over, glaring coldly. Michael, David and I are getting married. What's that to me? Townsfolk shocked. Michael's got backbone now. Yeah, he used to never cross Sarah. Guess Omi was pretty spineless. Not anymore. Get out of my way. I'm working. Sarah flushed red. Michael, I know you're playing hard to get. I won't fall for you again. Talk about delusional. I rolled my eyes. She fumed more, stormed off. Everyone laughed. Michael, you're tough now, standing up to Sarah? I just smiled. Seeing Jessica work hard, I vowed to give her a home. Soon it was almost Christmas. In town buying holiday stuff. Ran into my high school teacher. He was thrilled. Michael, finally found you. You and Jessica still together? There's a good job waiting for you both. What? I exclaimed. You two had great grades. City officials want you as elementary teachers. Interested, never dreamed of such a chance. I nodded eagerly. We're in. Home, I hugged Jessica in the field, excited. We're going to the city. To be teachers. She couldn't believe it. Sarah passed by, overheard, sneered. Always saying stuff around me to get my attention. With this opportunity, I was thrilled. Even Sarah didn't bug me as much. He smiled to her. Jessica and I are getting married. Come for the cake. Then to Jessica. After the wedding, we head to the city. Michael, how dare you? Sarah glared angrily. You can't marry someone else. Hilarious. Who was she to decide? I ignored her, hugged Jessica, and left happy. Home, we planned our future. She kissed me suddenly, blushing. Michael, thanks for not giving up on me. My face heated. I held her tight. As long as our hearts are together, we'll be happy forever. Oh, forgot to say, I married Sarah because she was pregnant. I had to be responsible. I never wanted to leave you. Her eyes teared. She kissed me. Door burst open. Sarah. She slapped me hard. You cheater. How dare you kiss someone else? I'm your wife. I pushed her away firmly. Sarah, stop acting crazy. You call me by my full name? She looked shocked. You never did that. What's wrong with you? I don't remember you, but I know our story. I never liked you. Married you for the kid, to be responsible. My words stunned her. You really have amnesia. Jessica stepped in front. Sarah, Michael's my man now. Leave. Sarah backed up, pained. No. Impossible. You're faking. No amnesia. I didn't argue, pushed her out the door. Next day, changed the locks. Forgot she had a key from before. With plans set, teacher was happy for us. Prepare to marry, then come. So soon, Jessica and I wed. Whole town came, celebrating. Folks were genuine, blessing us. Only Sarah watched teary, then grabbed my shirt. Look at me. I'm the woman you love. Amnesia is making you forget. I'll take you to the city dock. When memory returns, you'll love me. I shove her hard. Sarah, I never loved you from start to end. Maybe some affection as my wife, but that's it. Now, I don't. And we're divorced. I said it loud. Everyone heard, gossiping. Sarah dumped Michael first. Now this? Disgusting. Yeah, ridiculous. Sarah's face paled. Emily showed up, teary. Dad, I was wrong before. Don't leave, Mom. Alex held my hand tight like I'd vanish. I patted him reassuringly. Coldly to Emily. We have no relation now. I'll pay support, but you're not my daughter. Sarah broke down, sobbing loud. You waited years for me. How can you stop loving so fast? Someone said, aren't you pathetic? Found out David gambles, treats you bad, now regretting. Your own fault. Don't ruin Michael's life. Everyone sided with me, chased her and Emily out. Wedding continued. After, Jessica and I got the license. We made it, finally together. We visited our parents to say goodbye. Might not return soon. On way to my folks, ran into Sarah and Emily. Heard she divorced David. He gambled, neglected home. Guess that argument I saw was the start. Sarah by her car, soft. Let me drive you. Emily. Dad, let's see grandparents together. We could be a family again. Journal said I'd never shorted them. While Sarah in Army, I sent money. Emily never farmed. While other kids did, I worked to send her to town school. But they coldly ditched me. Now saying this? Made me sick. No need. Sarah grabbed my hand. You're just amnesic. Spend time with me. You'll remember, love me like before. She showed a ring. Michael, look, this is our wedding ring. My head throbbed. Flash, accident scene. Me on ground, trying to call out. But Sarah and David left. That hurt. Wasted 10 years. Sarah, I remember now. You were there at the accident, talking to David about building a house together. Her face went pale. In the Army, I was homesick. David was there. Thought I liked him. But I forgot. I like you first. I did wrong. Forgive me. We can recall old times. You'll love me again. Impossible. No hesitation. We're done. After parents' goodbye, Sarah followed in her car. I ignored, biked home. Home. Alex and Jessica not back yet. Waited. Sarah slipped in. Teary. I won't force reconciliation. Just drink and talk. Help me move on. She seemed pitiful. I agreed. She talked a lot. I regretted divorcing you soon after. Didn't expect you to agree so fast. Thought you were mad, so I said mean things. Michael, you raised Emily so well. I should thank you. But I came back and ditched you, sorry. She poured drinks. Soon I felt fuzzy. Sarah smiled. 10 years ago, I tricked you this way. Now same, you fall for it. Michael, this time, I'll have you again. We'll be together. As she leaned to kiss, I pushed hard. I laughed. You said same way, so why think I'd fall twice? You? She looked shocked. I've recovered my memory. I said softly, on the way home, your ring triggered it all. When you came to drink, I suspected. I switched the drinks secretly. So what? She laughed maniacally. Man and woman alone. Jessica will misunderstand. But I've been listening at the door. Jessica entered with Alex. I'd guessed Sarah's plan. On way back, called Jessica to hide outside. And I called the mayor and neighbors. They know what kind of woman you are. Sarah collapsed. No, you can't do this. Since you remember everything, you should love me more. Remembering makes me hate you. For breaking me and Jessica. Sarah, it's over. Don't harass me anymore. After that, Sarah couldn't show her face in town. Everyone knew she tried to get me drunk to frame me. They avoided her. Emily got bullied by other kids, couldn't take it, came to me. Dad, it's Emily. You said you'd protect me forever. I had said that when she was feverish, crying in my arms. Emily, don't fear. Dad'll protect you always. You'll be fine. Then I hugged her, borrowed money door to door for her doctor. But now, I couldn't treat her the same. 10 years raising her hard. Thought time built deep bond. But Sarah back, she changed. I saw she inherited her mom's selfishness, greed. Thought David brought benefits. Now seeing he's not, came back to me. No such luck. Don't call me Dad. I have no daughter like you. I took Alex inside. Jessica served dinner, said tomorrow we leave. Next day, as we left, Sarah somehow knew, chased our car madly, begging me not to go. Shocked me. Thought she just ditched David because he was bad. Now, seemed she couldn't live without me. But irrelevant. Now, building future with Jessica. In Chicago, high school teacher welcomed us. Country needs teachers. You had good grades. I trust you. We nodded firmly. Back then, accidents stopped our college tests. Now we'd work hard, teach, study for degrees. Moved into school dorms. Alex attended free. Thought we'd farm in town forever. Now rooting in big city. We were lucky. Maybe amnesia was fate. Jessica and I adapted fast, excelled as teachers. 3 years later, we were homeroom teachers, got education degrees from State University, named outstanding teachers. Then we went home. Jessica looked vibrant. Alex grown, bringing books for friends. In town, saw Sarah farming fields. Folks said after I left, she and Emily got sick. Spent all money on care. Now farming to get by. She turned, saw me, eyes red. A shadow hugged me, calling Dad. The tanned, skinny girl was Emily. I'd sent support money years. Didn't expect this. I gave her cash. Live well with your mom. Then with Jessica and Alex, handed gifts to others. Everyone happy for our success. Midway, Sarah approached, voice choked. Sorry, I was wrong back then. I said, life's long. We make mistakes. Keep moving forward, don't look back. She nodded, tear falling. If time reversed, I'd cherish you. But if time reversed, I'd avoid her. Now, just want to be with who I love and loves me forever. Jessica and I walked on. Future bright. Story complete. The childhood secret Leo Miller stood by the glass doors of the office building, watching Chloe Walsh and Jaden York approach. They were flanking Simon Vance, one on each side, guiding him toward the entrance. A bitter, familiar knot tightened in Leo's chest. He didn't need to be a mind reader to know that their date tonight was officially dead in the water. As the trio neared him, the two women whispered a few words to Simon before hurrying over to Leo. Leo, I am so sorry, Chloe said, her face a mask of guilt. She reached out, grabbing his left hand and giving it a gentle, pleading tug. Simon's not feeling well today. We need to get him to the hospital for a checkup. Please don't be mad, okay? The symphony starts tonight, Jaden added, naturally taking his other hand. Her voice was soft, trying to soothe the frustration she knew he was feeling. Go ahead and get ready. We'll drop him off, make sure he's okay, and meet you there. This is the performance you've been dying to see. We promise we won't miss it. Looking at them, Leo was hit with a wave of nostalgia. Since they were toddlers, it had always been like this. Chloe on his left, Jaden on his right, holding his hands as they navigated the world together. It's fine, Leo said, forcing a supportive smile. You guys do what you need to do. I'll handle the arrangements, and we'll meet at the concert hall. Both women looked visibly relieved, their expressions brightening instantly. Seeing the three of them so close, Simon's face darkened for a split second. His possessiveness was a living thing, a sharp edge honed over 20 years of pining for these two women. Seeing them fawn over another man, even their lifelong friend, was a bitter pill he struggled to swallow. Chloe, Jaden, are we going? Simon's voice strained with a sudden, sharp pain. The irritation where the prosthetic meets the thigh. It's unbearable. It feels like thousands of fire ants are biting into my skin. God, it hurts. His face contorted in agony as he began clawing at the base of his right thigh, his fingers digging into the skin as if trying to tear the flesh away. Simon, stop. You'll cause an infection, Chloe cried, letting go of Leo's hand to rush to Simon's side. We're going right now, Jaden said, her voice stern with worry. You have to tell us the moment you feel discomfort, Simon. Don't wait until it's this bad. She, too, released Leo, jogging toward the parking garage. She pulled the car around while Chloe tenderly helped Simon into the back seat and climbed in beside him. With a brief, apologetic honk of the horn, they vanished into the city traffic. Leo, Chloe, Jaden, and Simon had been an inseparable quartet since they were in diapers. Leo had always been the golden boy, tall, athletic, with a bright spark in his eyes that drew people in. The two girls had grown from cute neighbors into stunning women, turning heads wherever they went. Simon was the outlier, handsome in a cold, distant way, a man of few words and a stubborn, obsessive streak. If he set his mind on something, he wouldn't stop until he owned it. Growing up, the dynamic was usually the same. Chloe and Jaden would walk ahead, Leo sandwiched between them as they chatted about everything and nothing. Simon would follow behind in silence, a shadow that the others often forgot was there. Still, they took care of him. He was socially awkward and had a knack for getting into trouble, and the three of them were always there to clean up his messes. Everything shifted in high school. The girls' friendship with Leo evolved into a fierce, competitive pursuit. They weren't just interested in him. They were in a race to see who could love him more. Every morning, two identical insulated lunch bags sat on Leo's desk, filled with his favorite breakfast foods. They were his constant companions at lunch and dinner. On birthdays and holidays, the gifts and parties were lavish. At football practice, one would be there with a towel, the other with a Gatorade. When he sat down to rest, one would massage his shoulders while the other worked on his legs. The three of them were the most beautiful sight on campus, and Leo's teammates were green with envy. They joked that he lived like a king in a modern democracy. He spent half his allowance treating his friends to dinner just to apologize for the royal treatment he received. During those group dinners, the girls were social butterflies, keeping the conversation lively. They tried to include Simon, sensing that his isolation wasn't healthy, but he would just stare at his plate, eating in a stony silence that made everyone uncomfortable. Eventually, they just made sure his plate was full and let him be. It was a stable, if slightly lopsided, harmony. Until Valentine's Day of their senior year. Leo was in the classroom packing his bag when two girls from another class, close friends of Chloe and Jaden, walked in. "Leo, come with us," one said. "Am I under arrest?" Leo joked. "Maybe," she laughed. "But I promise it's a good thing." Leo couldn't resist. "Wait for me. I was thinking Taco Bell tonight." "Taco Bell can wait," the girl said with a smirk. "Tonight is going to be a lot more expensive than a Crunchwrap." They led him to the town square. A crowd had gathered in a circle, and as Leo approached, they parted to let him through. In the center of the plaza, two large hearts were laid out in flickering candles. Chloe and Jaden stood in the middle of their respective hearts, each clutching a massive bouquet of red roses. Their eyes lit up when they saw him, a mix of exhilaration and pure terror. They knew that tonight, he would likely choose one of them, and the other would be relegated to just a friend. Both girls gave heartfelt confessions, their voices trembling as they held out the flowers, waiting for his choice. Leo was paralyzed. He had always known this day would come. He loved them both, and choosing one meant breaking the other's heart. He'd spent years telling himself he was too young to decide, pushing the problem away. But looking at their hopeful, burning gazes, he realized he couldn't stall anymore. He opened his mouth to speak, but a horrific, blood-curdling scream shattered the moment. The crowd turned to see Simon Vance. He was clutching his chest, collapsing to the pavement and rolling in apparent agony. "Call 911, Leo shouted. He forgot the flowers, the candles, and the confessions. He scooped Simon up and ran toward the campus gate. At the hospital, the doctor said it was just a panic attack brought on by extreme stress. Simon was fine, but the Valentine's Day confession was ruined. From that day on, Simon changed. He became clingy. Before, he preferred to be alone with his music or games. Now, he was the one initiating contact, constantly calling the girls for help with minor problems. Leo felt Simon distancing himself, catching glares of resentment in the rare moments their eyes met. Leo, being easygoing, brushed it off. Simon was his oldest friend. Surely he wasn't becoming an enemy. It had to be a misunderstanding. Chloe and Jaden noticed it too. Simon was suddenly on, trying to be outgoing and funny, but his jokes were awkward and his timing was off. They played along, not wanting to discourage his progress, but the bond with Leo remained unbreakable. One text from Leo, "You coming?" was all it took. "Yes." Where, they would reply. That unspoken synchronicity drove Simon mad. Watching them leave to meet Leo, he would grind his teeth until his jaw ached. One day, he thought, "I will be the first choice." One afternoon, the four of them were studying in the university library. Leo caught the scent of smoke. He looked up to see a bookshelf engulfed in flames. Panic erupted. Being students with no emergency experience, most people just screamed and ran. Leo's first thought was of Chloe and Jaden. They had gone to the second floor to find a specific reference book. The library was a tinderbox. The fire spread with terrifying speed through the stacks of old paper. Leo ignored the smoke stinging his lungs and sprinted toward the stairs. Near the landing, he found them. Chloe had been knocked down by the surging crowd and had a badly sprained ankle. Jaden was frantically trying to pull her up, but she didn't have the strength, and she was frozen in a state of pure panic. Leo didn't hesitate. He hoisted Chloe over one shoulder and Jaden over the other, his muscles straining as he battled his way toward the exit. Just as the doors came into view, someone slammed into him with the force of a freight train. Leo went down hard, the weight of the two women pinning him to the floor. He tried to stand, but a sharp, white-hot pain flared in his leg. He couldn't get up. "Hey, please." Leo grabbed the jacket of a passing student. "Take them. Get them out of here." "You look hurt worse than they do, man," the student said, reaching for Leo's arm. "Don't worry about me. Save them first. Go." The student hesitated, then grabbed the two girls and pulled them toward the light of the exit. Leo struggled to crawl, his vision blurring. He was so close to the door. Suddenly, a heavy beam groaned above him. Something massive slammed into the back of his head, and the world went black. When Chloe and Jaden regained consciousness, they were in hospital beds. They learned that the fire had gutted the library. They had spent hours screaming for someone to go back in for Leo until they eventually collapsed from exhaustion and smoke inhalation. Leo was sitting by their beds, his face gaunt and weary. "You're awake," he breathed, a ghost of a smile appearing. The women burst into tears, throwing their arms around him. "We thought we lost you. We got you out. We have to thank them." Leo's expression turned somber. "It was Simon. I was knocked out cold. They told me Simon dragged me through the fire. He saved my life, but his leg was pinned. He's in surgery right now." The three of them waited outside the OR for hours. When the surgeon finally emerged, he looked defeated. "He's alive," the doctor said, "but we had to amputate the right leg below the hip. He's young. It's a tragedy." The news hit them like a physical blow. "Don't you need family consent for that?" Leo demanded. "How could you just take his leg?" "He was conscious when they brought him in," the doctor replied. "He insisted on it. He signed the papers himself. It was a matter of life or death." When Simon woke up, his grief was performative and overwhelming. He wailed about his lost future, and the three of them, drowned in guilt, promised him that they would never leave his side. He might have lost a leg, but he would have them forever. From then on, the girls' devotion to Simon became a full-time job. Simultaneously, Simon's hostility toward Leo became overt. Leo accepted it. He assumed that seeing him was a constant reminder of the fire and the limb Simon had given up to save him. Leo began to support Simon from the shadows, funding his lifestyle and ensuring he lacked for nothing, all to repay the debt of his life. Years passed. They graduated and started a successful tech firm. Leo, Chloe, and Jaden did the heavy lifting, while Simon was a partner in name only. They bought him luxury cars, funded exotic vacations, and gave him the best of everything. That was why Leo had been so hurt when the girls ditched their symphony date. It was a pattern that had repeated 100 times over the years. A single phone call from Simon was all it took to leave Leo standing alone. Leo waited at the concert hall until the very last minute, hoping they would show up. They didn't. He watched the performance alone, flanked by 2 empty seats. When he got home, he checked Instagram. Predictably, Simon had posted a photo. Him in a hospital gown, Chloe washing his face with a warm cloth, Jaden stirring a bowl of soup nearby. Leo was used to it. In the weeks that followed, the girls were rarely at the office. Simon's social media was a play-by-play of their care for him. Leo hadn't had a real meal with them in months. Then came Leo's birthday. Usually, the girls threw a massive party. This year, there was silence. Simon had been posting depressing, cryptic messages for a week. Photos looking down from high balconies, captions about the pointlessness of life. Naturally, the girls were on high alert suicide watch. Simon had suggested a trip to the remote wilderness of Montana to find his spirit. The scenery was breathtaking, but more importantly, it was thousands of miles away. Simon had timed it perfectly, so they wouldn't be back for Leo's birthday. Leo watched their stories every day. Simon looked radiant in the big sky country, showing no signs of depression as he was pampered by 2 beautiful women against a backdrop of mountains. Leo felt a dark, intrusive thought. Maybe it would have been better if I were the one who lost a leg. He shook the thought away, horrified. He spent his birthday alone. He set the table for 3, cooked a large meal, and bought a small cake. He lit a single candle and made a wish. "I wish we could go back to the way it was. No secrets, no debts. Just us." He blew out the candle and sat in the silence of his apartment. It was 11:30 p.m. The day was almost over. Knock, knock, knock. Leo opened the door to find Chloe and Jaden, looking exhausted and windblown. "We made it," Chloe cried. "Did you miss us, big guy?" Jaden jumped on him, and for a moment, they were like they were in the library again, him carrying them both. How are you here?" Leo stammered. "We chartered a flight," Chloe said, breathless. "We weren't going to let you spend this day alone." "What about Simon?" "He seemed fine," Jaden said, rolling her eyes. "We told him we had to go. Depression is one thing, but we can't be held hostage forever. You're important to us, too, Leo. We were so worried you'd be mad." "I could never be mad," Leo said, his heart swelling. "He saved me. I owe him everything. But I missed you." He ushered them inside and spent the next hour in the kitchen whipping up a late-night feast. They gave him his gifts, a luxury watch and a custom-engraved necklace. The gifts were intimate, thoughtful, and for the first time in years, there was no competition. They drank late into the night. The girls got tipsy, using wine bottles as microphones to sing happy birthday. For one night, the shadow of Simon Vance was gone. They fell asleep on the living room rug, a tangle of limbs and blankets. The proposal, a sharp ringtone, pierced the morning quiet. Chloe groped for her phone, her eyes still half closed. Hello? Okay. Yeah, we'll be there. She tossed the phone aside. 10 more minutes. Nobody act fast. Simon's back, Jaden asked, already knowing the answer. His flight lands soon. We have to go. Leo watched them leave after they gulped down the ginger congee he'd made for their hangovers. He cleaned the apartment and headed to the office, only to find an unexpected guest in his inner sanctum. Simon Vance was sitting in Leo's chair, sipping a latte. They rarely saw each other in person these days. Simon, how was Montana? Leo asked, keeping his tone professional and warm. Simon didn't look up. He took a slow sip of his coffee. It was perfect, he said quietly. Until the end. Someone ruined the finale. Leo knew he was talking about the girls leaving. Well, life is full of interrupted finales, I guess. You should try the Pacific Northwest next time, or maybe a trip to Europe. I'm going to propose to them, Simon interrupted. Them. Both of them. Today. Right here in the office. And frankly, Leo, I don't care which one says yes first. I'll take whoever is more devoted. I wonder where that leaves you. Simon's arrogance was staggering. He truly believed that years of being cared for out of pity meant they were in love with him. Leo's hands balled into fists, his knuckles turning white. Does it hurt? Simon sneered, standing up. To know that with one snap of my fingers, the women who used to worship you will leave you behind? I'm announcing it in the conference room in 30 minutes. Be there. Leo stayed in his office, staring at a report until the words blurred into gray lines. Finally, he stood up. He had to see this. The conference room was buzzing. Employees were whispering, sensing a drama they didn't quite understand. Leo slipped in and sat in the back row. Chloe and Jaden were at the front, looking confused. Simon signaled, and an assistant brought out 2 massive bouquets of lilies. He walked to the girls and knelt, an awkward gesture with his prosthetic. Chloe, Jaden, Simon projected his voice for the whole room. I've loved you both for a lifetime. These last few years have shown me I can't live without you. I want to make this official. Be my wives. The room went dead silent. Chloe and Jaden didn't look touched. They looked horrified. Simon, what are you talking about? Jaden whispered, her face flushing with embarrassment. You can't propose to 2 people. That's literally illegal. Simon smiled, looking triumphant. He pulled a document from his pocket. I'm a step ahead of you. I've officially changed my citizenship to a small island nation in the South Pacific. Their laws allow for multiple wives. We can all be together legally. The girl stared at the passport in shock. Simon, Chloe said, her voice trembling with a mix of pity and anger. You changed your nationality for this? We're your friends. We care for you because of what you did for Leo, but we are not in love with you. We'll always take care of you, Jaden added firmly. But this is a delusion. Never do this again. The crowd began to filter out, the silence replaced by mocking whispers. Simon sat on the floor, the lilies scattered around him. His face twisted into something monstrous. If that's how you want to play it, he hissed to the empty room. Then you'll get what's coming. Simon went quiet for a few weeks. He stopped calling. The girls, feeling a pang of guilt for the public rejection, eventually went to check on him. He played the victim, acting cold until they apologized enough times to restore the status quo. At the company's annual New Year's gala, held at a luxury hotel, things seemed back to normal. After the main event, the 4 of them gathered in a private suite. Simon brought out a carafe of what he called rare Himalayan tea. A peace offering, he said, pouring 4 cups. Leo took a large gulp. It tasted bitter, almost metallic. This tastes off. Chloe and Jaden agreed, setting their cups down after a single sip. Simon's face was a mask of cold indifference. It's a specific blend. Very potent. Suddenly, Simon gasped. Oh no, I just got a text from my source. He sent the wrong batch. This isn't the tea. This is a concentrated herbal aphrodisiac from the subcontinent. It's industrial strength. What? Jaden stood up. It causes extreme cardiovascular arousal in men, Simon said, his face already flushing deep red. If the heart rate isn't lowered, it can be fatal. It doesn't affect women, though. Leo felt a surge of heat. His heart began to hammer against his ribs like a trapped bird. Simon was already gasping for air, sweating profusely. Chloe and Jaden panicked. Chloe grabbed her phone to call an ambulance, while Jaden helped Simon toward the door. We have to get him to the ER. His heart. They hurried Simon toward the elevators, but as the paramedics arrived, Jaden stopped. She looked back at the suite where Leo was struggling. Chloe, Simon is with the medics now. He'll be fine, Jaden said, her voice dropping. But Leo is alone, and he's in much worse shape. He needs me. Chloe's eyes sharpened. Don't pretend you're just being a good Samaritan, Jaden. I know exactly what you're thinking, leaving with a man in that state. You're thinking the same thing, Jaden countered. We aren't letting him go through this alone. They arranged for the company security guards to accompany Simon to the hospital and turned back, racing toward Leo's room. The truth, Leo woke up the next morning as the sun hit the high-rises. He felt a strange, light airiness in his body, though his memories of the night were a blurred, feverish haze. He walked into the living area of his suite to find Chloe and Jaden looking remarkably composed, sipping coffee and scrolling through their phones. The air in the room was thick with an unsaid tension. Leo felt like a bashful groom, barely able to meet their eyes, while the two of them acted as if it were just another Tuesday. "You're awake," Chloe said, her voice neutral but her eyes lingering on him a second too long. Leo felt a wave of heat that had nothing to do with the Yeah, I'm okay. What happened with Simon? He's at the hospital, Jaden said, standing up and smoothing her dress. We should go check on him. Get dressed. They arrived at the hospital at 1:00 p.m. As they approached Simon's private room, they heard voices through the slightly ajar door. Leo signaled for the girls to be quiet. You did perfectly, Simon's voice came through, sharp and clear. When they come in, tell them I took a fall because of the prosthetic last night. Tell them I broke my right arm, and because of the medication in my system, the doctors couldn't operate in time. We had to amputate. Got it. Mr. Vance, a man, presumably a doctor, replied nervously. I can't just lie about an amputation. Your arm is perfectly fine. I'm paying you more than you've made in 5 years, Simon snapped. Just like the last time, do your job and get out. The doctor hurried out of the room, nearly running into the three of them. He turned pale and bolted down the hallway. They pushed the door open. Simon saw them, and his face went white. He tried to muster a weak smile. You're here. Listen, last night was a disaster. My friend sent the wrong. Stop, Chloe said. Her voice was like ice. How long have you been lying to us, Simon? We heard everything, Jaden added. The arm. The payment to the doctor. Just like the last time. What does that mean? Simon looked at their faces, no longer filled with pity, but with a terrifying, cold clarity. He realized the game was over. He started to laugh, a jagged, broken sound. You want the truth? Fine Simon spot. In the library that day, Leo was fine. He was crawling toward the door. I followed him. I hit him in the back of the head with a fire extinguisher. I dragged him out to look like the hero. Leo felt the world tilt. But I was burned too, Simon continued. And I saw how you two looked at him. I knew I'd never win. So I found a doctor who needed money. I had him take my leg. I sacrificed a limb to buy your guilt. And it worked. For years, I owned you. You cut off your own leg. To manipulate us. Leo's voice was a whisper. I'd have cut off my head if I thought it would make them love me, Simon sneered. I thought if I made them feel guilty enough, they'd have no choice but to choose me. But they never did. They only ever loved you. The room was silent. The hero, who had saved Leo's life, was a monster of his own making. Chloe and Jaden looked at Simon, this broken, bitter man who had stolen years of their lives through a calculated, self-mutilating lie. They didn't feel anger anymore, only a profound, soul-deep disgust. We're done, Simon, Chloe said. We won't call the police. You've already destroyed yourself more than any court could, but you are dead to us. They walked out, leaving Simon Vance alone in his hospital bed, a man who had traded his body for a love he could never possess. A week later, the three of them stood at the airport. They had stepped down from the company, leaving it in the hands of a capable management firm. They needed to breathe. They had chosen a destination far from the shadows of their past, Dubai. They wanted the sun, the desert, and a world where they didn't owe anyone anything. As the plane climbed into the clouds, Leo sat between Chloe and Jaden. He took their hands, and for the first time in his life, there was no weight of debt, no hidden shadow, just the open sky and the people he had always loved. Story complete. To them, I was a dog, a puppet they could discard at will. It wasn't until my wife, Claire, sacrificed our unborn child for the man she truly loved that I finally woke up. In that moment, I understood that my 3 years of quiet humiliation had been nothing more than a sick joke. What they didn't know was that in destroying that child, they had shattered every chain holding me down. Now the game begins. I'm going to make them watch as the worthless trash they despised reclaims his dignity, step by painful step. I'm going to make them pay the ultimate price for their arrogance and their cruelty. One when my friend told me he'd overheard Claire at the clinic telling her old flame Julian Vance that she would never have a child with me, that she would wait for him to get his divorce, my world turned to ice. In that instant, I felt no pain, only a profound, bone-deep cold, as if the blood in my veins had frozen solid. Tears streamed down my face, not for my sham of a marriage, but for the child I would never meet, a life extinguished before it ever saw the light of day. From that moment on, I was done being their punching bag. Looking back, my relationship with Claire felt like a meticulously crafted illusion. I met her while traveling. She was vibrant, beautiful, and showered me with an attention so tender I fell for her completely. Then came the proposal, but with a catch. I had to marry into her family. The Thompsons were wealthy, she explained, and she couldn't bear to move away. Blinded by love, I foolishly agreed. For 3 years, I never spent a single dime of the Thompsons' money. I handled all the housework, treated her parents with painstaking respect, and in return, I was met with daily ridicule and insults. I was their live-in help, their family pet. Claire herself was always on guard, terrified I might get her pregnant. I was naive enough to believe they just needed time to trust me, that if I gave enough of myself, I could eventually win them over. I even blew my entire savings on lavish gifts for them, only to watch them toss my offerings aside like garbage. Then came the night Claire got drunk and, in a rare moment of abandon, pulled me into her bed, telling me she wanted a baby. I was ecstatic, thinking she had finally, truly accepted me. But the next morning, I was met not with affection, but with the sting of her palm across my face and the venomous curses of her parents. They called me a conniving bastard, accusing me of scheming to trap their daughter for the family fortune. That's when I first understood. In this house, I would always be an outsider. The news from the clinic was what finally shattered my last illusion. She had never loved me. The light of her life, the one she truly wanted, had always been Julian Vance, the golden boy of the Vance Corporation. I just couldn't understand why, if that was the case, she had ever asked me to marry her in the first place. 2 weeks later, she came home from the hospital. I looked at her, my voice as still and dead as a frozen lake. Why? Her face was a mask of impatience. I was just angry at Julian, that's all. Did you really think I was in love with you? You. So that was it. Julian had gotten married, and despite him, she'd picked me, a convenient tool, to soothe her wounded pride. Just a tool. I repeated, a cold laugh escaping my lips as I turned and walked back to the guest room that served as my bedroom. I hated myself for my own stupidity, but I hated her more for her cruelty. I lay awake all night, thinking, I might not be a high roller, but I could make a life for myself, a perfectly fine one. I had never wanted the Thompson family's money, but she had killed my child. Fine. If they all saw me as a worthless gold digger, then that's exactly who I'd become. The next morning, after showering, I walked straight to the dining room, sat down, and started eating breakfast. My mother-in-law came downstairs and froze, her brow furrowing in rage. Have you forgotten your manners? We haven't even sat down yet. How dare a man who married into this family start eating first? I shot her a cold smirk and deliberately picked up a piece of her favorite Belgian waffle, popping it into my mouth. She exploded. Rolling up her sleeves, she swung a fist at my head. Thud. I shot to my feet and shoved her. She stumbled backward, landing on the floor in an undignified heap, and immediately started wailing Claire's name. Claire came running down the stairs, helped her mother up, and glared at me. Ethan, are you out of your mind? How could you lay a hand on my mother? My eyes drifted to her flat stomach, a mocking smile playing on my lips. I said nothing, just lowered my head and continued eating. I was an outsider, someone on their way out. No one was going to push me around ever again. Perhaps feeling a sliver of guilt, Claire didn't argue further. She just helped her mother out of the house to eat elsewhere. I looked at the elaborate spread of food on the table and methodically tried a bit of everything. Ethan, have you no shame? Stop eating that. I made it for Mrs. and Miss Thompson, the housekeeper, a woman who always relished bad-mouthing me to the family, snapped as she emerged from the kitchen, reaching to clear the plates. Smack! My backhand caught her across the cheek, sending her staggering. I'm still the son-in-law of this house, I said, my voice low and dangerous. You will show me some respect. Know your place. You're the help. Stay out of family business. I'd put up with her for years. She dumped all her chores on me the day I arrived and spent her time spreading gossip. Now that I no longer cared what the Thompsons thought, I certainly wasn't going to take anything from her. You. She clutched her face, a mixture of shock and fury in her eyes, but she didn't dare approach me again. I finished my breakfast at a leisurely pace, even pouring myself a glass of wine. On my way out, I snatched the keys to my father-in-law's gleaming black Mercedes from the hook by the door. In 3 years of marriage, I'd never even been allowed to sit in the passenger seat. I drove it straight to the most expensive shopping district downtown. I pulled out the platinum card Claire had given me when we got married, a flashy gesture, a card I'd never once used, and proceeded to spend $20,000 in a single day. I bought rounds for every beautiful woman in the bar, basking in their admiring gazes. Spending money like this felt damn good. It turns out that with enough money, you really could do whatever you wanted. Lying on the king-size bed in a five-star hotel that night, I thought, I'm getting divorced sooner or later. Might as well experience a taste of paradise first. A week later, when I rolled the Mercedes back into the Thompsons' driveway, the three of them were waiting for me, their faces like thunder, blocking the entrance like stone gargoyles. I parked the car, tossed the keys to my father-in-law, and made sure they got a good look at the lipstick smears on my face and neck. "Great car," I said with a laugh. "A real head-turner, if you know what I mean." "Ha ha ha. Ethan, you stole my father's car, and you've been out fooling around, spending money on other women. You've gone too far." Claire lunged at me, pounding her fists against my chest. My mother-in-law shrieked, "Claire, cancel his car now. He blew through 30 grand in a week. How much money do you think we have for him to waste? Claire, just marry Julian already. Having this piece of trash in our house is a disgrace to the Thompson name." My father-in-law finally dropped all pretense and laid his cards on the table. Looking at their disgusted faces, I just snorted, stuffed my hands in my pockets, and walked past them into the guest room. Let them rage. I was going to get some sleep. When I woke up, I lay in bed, plotting my next surprise for Claire and Julian. Just then, a video notification popped up on my phone. The video showed Julian and Claire locked in a passionate kiss on a street somewhere in Europe. Based on the date visible on a digital billboard in the background, it was filmed just a few days after she'd gotten rid of our child. "Interesting," I murmured with a smirk. This was no paparazzi shot. It had been leaked by Julian himself, a move to force his own wife into a divorce. I put my phone away and went downstairs to find something to eat. "Don't go out. I saved you some breakfast," Claire said suddenly from the living room couch as I appeared. "I'm not fit to eat the Thompsons' food. A greasy spoon diner is more my speed." I adjusted my collar and headed for the door. To my surprise, she followed me. I walked into the first diner I saw. She sat down in the booth across from me, her eyes fixed on my face. "Hey, handsome, is your wife on a diet?" the waitress asked with a friendly smile as she set down my pancakes and coffee. "No," I replied, smiling back. "She just can't stomach cheap food like this." Claire's face flushed crimson. "You're not going out to party again today, are you?" she asked, her voice tight. "Can't say for sure. If one of the girls from the other night calls, I can't just stand her up." I gave her a deliberate wink. Julian's video was out there. A divorce was inevitable. Why should I sit at home and mope? I was going to live it up as a playboy for as long as I could. After breakfast, as we walked out onto the street, she grabbed my wrist. "Don't go. Ethan, have you even considered my feelings? I'm still your wife. How can you go out with other women every day?" "Wife." I laughed as if it were the funniest joke I'd ever heard and yanked my arm from her grasp. "You stopped being my wife the moment you sacrificed our child." I hailed a cab and left her standing there, stunned and alone on the sidewalk. Over the next few days, Julian's video was, as expected, taken down. I did some digging and heard that he was trying to divorce his wife, but she was the daughter of another powerful family and was fighting him tooth and nail. Things were getting ugly. This, I thought, was a perfect opportunity. I paid someone to release the video my friend had taken at the clinic, the one showing Claire and Julian going in together on the day our child's life was ended. The internet erupted. The video went viral, shooting to the top of the trending topics on Twitter. Now, even if Julian didn't care about the scandal, there was no way his high society wife would ever swallow this humiliation. This was the first down payment on the debt they owed my unborn child. I had barely stepped through the door at home when the Thompsons' tribunal began. "Did you leak that video? You just can't stand to see my daughter happy, can you?" my mother-in-law screamed, pointing a trembling finger at my face. "Letting you marry into this family was the greatest honor of your life. Instead of being grateful, you dragged my daughter's name through the mud. Are you even human?" my father-in-law bellowed, his fists clenched in fury. Claire said nothing. She just stood there, her eyes red-rimmed, staring at me with an intensity that could burn holes in steel. "An honor?" I laughed. "I didn't come to the Thompson family for money. I came because I thought Claire loved me, and for that, I was willing to endure anything. But how did she repay me? This is her own doing. It has nothing to do with me." Without another word, I turned my back on them and went to my room. Divorce was coming. There was nothing more to say. Late that night, there was a soft knock on my door, for I opened it to find Claire standing there, her gaze darting away, unable to meet my eyes. "What is it?" My voice was ice. It's been 2 weeks. Aren't you?" coming back to the master bedroom. I'm just the outsider who's about to be kicked out. I'm fine here. Just let me know when you want to sign the papers. I started to close the door. She pressed her hand against it, holding it open. Her voice was trembling, pleading. When did I ever say I wanted a divorce? Husband, please come back to our room. It was the first time she had ever called me that with such desperation. I let out a cold, humorless laugh. You got the wrong guy. Julian's your husband. Slam. I forced the door shut. From the other side, I could faintly hear the sound of her muffled sobs. In the days that followed, her parents' attitude toward me soured even further, escalating into screaming matches nearly every time we were in the same room. Ethan, you were never like this. How did you become so disrespectful? You punk. I was blind to let my daughter marry a useless piece of trash like you. I calmly took a bottle of juice from the fridge, settled onto the couch, and watched them with a faint smile. The old Ethan is dead. The only reason I ever showed you respect was for Claire's sake. Did you really think I give a damn about your money? That shut them up. He was right. A son-in-law who didn't care about their fortune was a man they had no leverage over. Watching them tremble with rage, utterly powerless, I felt a flicker of grim satisfaction. That night, I saw on the news that Julian Vance and his wife had officially divorced. Finally free. I murmured to the night sky, a strange sense of excitement building inside me. Sure enough, it wasn't long before Julian himself showed up at the door. The way Claire's parents fawned over him, bowing and scraping, was nauseating. Mr. Vance, please have a seat. Claire will be right back. Julian ignored them. He walked straight up to me, his eyes dripping with contempt. So, you're Ethan, he said with a smirk. I'm sure you know about me and Claire by now. She only married you to get back at me. I'm the one she's always wanted. She even got rid of your kid for me. If you know what's good for you, you'll pack your bags and get lost. Don't embarrass yourself by sticking around. Crack. Before he could finish his sentence, my fist connected squarely with his jaw. I tackled him, slamming him to the floor, and rained punch after punch down on him. Every blow was for my dead child. His pampered body was no match for my rage. In moments, he was a blubbering, bruised mess on the marble floor. If Claire's parents hadn't thrown themselves between us, I think I might have killed him right then and there. Ethan, you're insane. Are you trying to commit murder? My mother-in-law shrieked, her voice cracking with terror. Just then, Claire walked in. She didn't see a pathetic, beaten Julian. She saw the inferno of rage in my eyes, and the so-called love of her life cowering behind her parents. In that moment, I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Not disgust, not pity, but shock, and maybe even a flicker of doubt. Claire, I'm divorced now. Let's get engaged, Julian managed to say, clutching his bleeding nose. But Claire's eyes were locked on me. I met her gaze and said flatly, Don't worry. I'll go with you to file the papers tomorrow. Whatever we had was over. I had nothing left to stay for. I'm not getting a divorce, Claire said suddenly. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the tension in the room. Everyone froze. Darling, what are you talking about? Why would we keep this loser around? Her mother demanded. 5-inch Claire, don't be foolish. Our business deal with the Vance family depends on you, her father added frantically. Julian looked utterly bewildered. He stepped forward and took her hand. Claire, is this lowlife threatening you? Don't worry, I'll have my people take care of. Get off me. Claire ripped her hand away, her voice sharp with revulsion. Don't you ever touch me again, Julian. My husband will get angry. Now I was stunned. I had no idea what kind of game she was playing. I sighed, a wave of exhaustion washing over me. Claire, it's over between us. Stop playing games. Let's just get the divorce. I turned to go back to my room. She rushed in after me and locked the door behind us. Thump. She dropped to her knees in front of me, tears streaming down her face like a broken dam. I was wrong, Ethan. I was so wrong. I realized. I've fallen in love with you. I can't live without you. Please, don't divorce me. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at her as if she were a complete stranger. It was laughable. The woman who personally orchestrated the death of our child was now kneeling before me, professing her love. How cheap was her love? The man you want is waiting for you outside, I said coldly. Whatever was between us ended the day you walked into that clinic. If you think I'm going to keep playing the role of your loyal dog, you're mistaken. I pulled her at her feet and shoved her out of the room. I didn't care how loudly she cried, how fiercely she argued with her parents. I didn't open the door again. For the next 3 days, she tried everything to win me back. Apologies, expensive gifts, desperate pleas. I was so sick of it that I finally dragged her down to the city clerk's office myself. Honey, please, let's not do this. We can move out, get our own place. I'll do anything you want, she cried, dropping to her knees on the sidewalk and clinging to my leg. drawing a crowd of onlookers. But I felt nothing. I was numb. I stood firm and finalized the divorce. The moment the clerk handed me the divorce decree, I felt a lightness I hadn't known in years. I packed a small bag, left without taking a dime of their money, and started a new life on my own. I drove to the coast and rented a small apartment, planning to stay for a while, find a simple job, and clear my head. But when I got back to my place that night, my brow furrowed in disbelief. Sitting there, leaning against my door under the dim hallway light, was Claire. She was poured into a skin-tight, sexy black dress, her figure stunning, her expression one of manufactured vulnerability. "Honey, you're back. I missed you," she said, forcing a weak, placating smile. I opened my door without a word, intending to shut it in her face, but she threw herself against it, trying to squeeze inside like a woman possessed. "Claire, we are divorced. Have some damn self-respect," I growled, my patience finally snapping. This woman had told me, to my face, that she would never have my child, that she would only ever wait for Julian. Those words were burned into my memory. All I felt for her now was hate. "Honey, I've cut ties with Julian completely. He'll never bother us again. Please, just forgive me this one time," she begged, her beautiful eyes shimmering with tears. I said nothing. I just used all my strength to push her back out into the hall and slammed the door shut. The next day, I decided to walk down to the local food truck park, hoping to recapture some of the simple freedom of being single. I'd barely reached the corner when I nearly collided with a young couple who were all over each other. "Watch where you're going. Get away from us, you lonely creep," the girl snapped. "What are you looking at? You want to start something?" her boyfriend added, puffing out his chest and grabbing the front of my shirt. I was about to lose my temper when Claire appeared out of nowhere, pulling me behind her. The couple's bravado deflated slightly when they got a look at her. "Are you trying to shake him down for money?" Claire asked, not waiting for an answer. She opened her purse, pulled out a thick wad of cash, at least $2,000, and threw it in their faces. "Is this enough?" The pair scrambled to pick up the bills and scurried away. I ignored the envious stares from passersby, shook my head in disgust, and kept walking. "See, honey, without me, people will bully you," Claire said, sticking to me like glue as she followed behind me. "I'll give you lots of babies to make up for the one we lost, okay? How's that sound?" I wanted to laugh in her face, as if the humiliation I'd suffered at the hands of her family wasn't the worst bullying of all. For the next few days, she was my shadow. Everywhere I went, she was there. One day, I went hiking and, by a stroke of luck, ran into Sophie Miller, the one that got away. We'd known each other in college, and I'd had a massive crush on her. I'd heard she was still single, and my heart gave a hopeful leap. We fell into an easy conversation, hiking all the way to the summit together. We were sitting side by side on a large rock, catching our breath, the atmosphere perfect. Ethan? You know her." A breathless voice shattered the moment. It was Claire, having somehow managed to climb all the way up after us. "You have a sister?" "She's beautiful," Sophie said, smiling a little awkwardly. "Cousin. She's my cousin," I said quickly. But Sophie's expression had already shifted. I knew, in that instant, that whatever chance I might have had was gone. That night, back in my apartment, I finally exploded. "Claire, what the hell do you want from me? Can you just leave me alone? You ruined my one chance at happiness." "You want her?" Claire's eyes lit up with a manic gleam. "What if I help you get her?" she said with a sly grin. "If I do that for you, will you agree to remarry me?" I thought she had lost her mind, but I never, ever would have imagined that later that same night, Sophie Miller would actually knock on my door. Her cheeks were flushed as she told me she'd always admired me, and then one thing led to another. The next morning, Sophie was curled up against my chest. "Ethan," she whispered, "Claire is a good person. She really, really loves you. You should give her another chance." I froze. A deep, spreading chill crept up from the pit of my stomach. I looked at Sophie, and for a split second, her eyes flickered with something. Off. I understood. I calmly got out of bed, put on my clothes, and walked into the living room. Claire was sitting on the couch, watching me with a look of smug triumph. Satisfied, I asked her, "As long as you'll remarry me, I'll give you anything you want," she said, standing up to embrace me. I took a step back, dodging her touch. "Claire," I said, my voice dangerously quiet, "do you know what your biggest problem is? You honestly believe money can buy anything. You can pay Sophie to put on a show for you, but you can't buy back my heart. And you sure as hell can't buy back her dead child." My words struck her like a physical blow. The color drained from her face, leaving it a ghastly white. "Now, you can get out," I said, pointing to the door, my voice final. "From this moment on, stay out of my life. Your love is filthy, and I don't want it." Then I took out my phone. Right in front of her, I called Sophie and put her on speaker. Sophie, I just have one question for you. How much did Claire pay you? The line was silent for a long, heavy moment. Then a choked, sobbing voice came through the speaker. $50,000. Claire's body swayed, and she crumpled to the floor. I ended the call. Without giving her another glance, I walked out of that suffocating apartment. The sun was rising, blinding. I was finally free. As for Claire, her reckoning had just begun.